How do you scale a business to 9 figures? That's $100 million or more. This is the number one question I get asked, or I have been asked over the 20 years that I've consulted with all sorts of businesses, and over the last 11 years where I've coached entrepreneurs and owners and founders of businesses. And it turns out that there are really 3 systems that are core to any business in order to scale to any number, 9 figures, 8 figures, 7 figures, whatever it may be. You have to have these 3 systems in place. What I'm going to show you right now is a workshop that I did to an exclusive group of owners of e-commerce businesses that are part of our coaching group and our mentorship program. While this is for e-commerce businesses, this is actually something that you can apply to any type of business, because in any business, there are the same 3 core systems that are required to successfully and profitably scale to 9 figures. Now, here's the deal. At the end of that workshop, I then recorded another session about how to increase the profitability of your business, which is something that really many people don't talk about. Everyone talks about top line revenue, but not a lot of people talk about profit. And really all that matters in a business is profit, right? At the end of the day, unless you're publicly traded on Wall Street, and then you can do whatever you want, apparently. But for the rest of us, you need to have profit in your business. And so after you watch that workshop, make sure that you stay to the end to actually watch the session that I did on how to increase the profitability of your business. Now, again, I recorded this for a small group of owners of e-commerce businesses, right, in our mentorship program. But I'm going to show it to you exclusively because I think it can apply to any business, right? The same levers apply to the profitability of any business that you run. At the end of the day, you own an e-commerce business or you want to get into e-commerce, then you can drop me a line and we can talk about that. But for now, enjoy the workshop and enjoy the session that we did on profitability. Thanks. Never stop growing. All right, guys, what's up? How you doing? Welcome to our webinar today. This is the 3 systems to scale your e-commerce brand to 9 figures this Q4. Let's get right into it. My name is Kenneth Ott, and I'm the co-founder of Metacake. And the way you remember that is you could say, I never met a cake I didn't love. That's not how the name came up, but that is how people remember it. I feel like you can connect with me on LinkedIn and social as well. Metacake is an e-commerce growth team, and we like to say we're your e-commerce growth team. We get to help some of the most influential brands in the world, as well as brands just starting out, grow their direct consumer business in scalable ways and healthy ways. We've been doing that for over 11 years, and we have actually 3 parts for our business. We have services, we've got training, which is what you're seeing right here. We actually have a capital arm as well, where we acquire and make investments in certain direct consumer businesses. And we've been blessed to help generate many billions of dollars in revenue for various different brands. And more importantly, we focus on that being sustainable and profitable revenue. And that is actually a topic that we're going to talk about today. I've got nothing to sell you in this training. You can just sit back and relax. I'm going to actually just teach you some things that have worked for us in creating 6, 7, 8, and even 9-figure healthy e-commerce channels. And if you're a minimum of a 6-figure brand and you like what you hear at the end of this and you want to learn more or you want to work with us, then you can set up a call. You can reach out on that URL right there, and we'd be happy to chat with you and see if we can help you achieve your goals. And so let's ask a question. I want you to ask yourself, why here? And why now? Why are you here today and why now? What's important to you? Why is scaling to 9 figures important to you? It seems to be the thing that everybody's trying to get to. Are you prepping for Q4? Are you worried about the recession? Are you having some trouble in some area? Are you seeing growth that you want to expand on? And so if you have a reason why you're here and you feel free to share it, or you feel like you want to share it, please drop that in the chat. And I'd love to see some of those reasons so that I can help make sure we address as many of those things as we can today. Now, we had some awesome bonuses that you're going to get when you signed up for this. They're going to be given away at the end, so you have to stay all the way through to the end. And I'm going to be as fast as possible and hopefully deliver a massive amount of value to you, so it's not going to be boring. But we'll show you how to get those at the end. And there will be no recording sent out on this. But if you do want to dig into some of these things, we'd be happy to dig into them with you. Just again, set up a call. We'll be giving away these 3 guidebooks. And I'll be talking about some of the things we're talking about. These will actually help train you on. And so you can follow up with what you learn here using those resources. And so you got the e-commerce cookbook, and it's the fundamentals of e-commerce. You got the ultimate success guide for e-commerce email, which is an entire program, 70 plus pages of how to create a email program that generates revenue for your e-commerce business. And the perfect website bundle, which is how to design a site intentionally with templates and all that kind of stuff. So quick disclaimer, I have to say this, 9 figures is hard to get to. It's not a guarantee. It's not a formula. It obviously takes a lot of things working together well. However, you also need a great product with healthy margin, a commitment to growing your business, resources to invest, and then you still may not achieve this. However, one thing that all 9-figure profitable brands that we've had the privilege of getting into, that they all have in common, is that they've nailed these 3 systems. But these 3 systems will still help you get from 0 to $100,000 or $1 million or 6 to 7 figures. Like, these are the levers that we found actually move the needle if they're handled and they're grown in healthy ways. Let's get into what is a common story. I got this message from someone in a group that I'm in. This was someone who started a business. This was their timeline. They started an entire business primarily around drop shipping, a handful of products, which is not ideal, but that doesn't really matter. They launched in 2019. In 2020, they hit $9 million in revenue, and they were just like going nuts. All right, that was the headline, right? And then 2021, they actually lost $600,000. And in 2022, they actually closed the business with over $200,000 in debt, actually. And this isn't the only story. It's actually very common in the position that we're in. Unfortunately, we hear these types of stories all the time, right? And in the e-commerce world, you know that you get monumental growth, and that's what everyone talks about, but not everyone talks about the healthy side of it. Is it healthy growth? Is it profitable growth? Here's another kind of example. We all know Casper, and this I actually pulled yesterday. We hear stories like this all the time. Look at the headline. Casper reports record quarterly revenue in 2020 in the second quarter of 2021. And then if you look really kind of low down there, and I can't even see it here, you see net loss increased by 9.5 million or 34% to 33.7 million. I think that's what that says. Okay, so the headline is revenue, and then they kind of like super down in the details. It's like, oh yeah, we actually lost $33 million, and it actually grew. How is that a win, right? Net loss increased. You can sell products at a net loss only for so long, and for most people, especially not if you're publicly traded, you can't sell products at a loss at all. And if you could, in the past climate, you definitely can't, at least from what we can tell, in the future climate, which is potential recession, some more challenging times. But you can thrive if you have healthy growth and healthy strategies and tactics. So you need a real business that turns a profit. It's interesting. This is the quote from their CEO. In the same article, we're pleased with our significant top-line growth. Our top-line growth reflects success of our new product offerings, relevance of omnichannel, blah, 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 blah. It's really not hard to sell dollar bills for quarters, right? If you sell dollar bills for quarters, your revenue will grow fast. You will have monumental growth for sure. But it's crazy because that's not a realistic way of building a business, but it's all too common inside of the e-commerce industry and e-commerce channels. And it won't sustain through every climate. And that's kind of what we're all about. Our mission is centered around this idea that you don't want fast growth or just fast growth. You want healthy growth. Because you face things like Facebook and Amazon accounts getting locked out and shut down, recession concerns, supply chain issues, competition, all sorts of things, right? These are all things that you need to face. that you do face, and you need to face them with a healthy system in place and healthy growth tactics, and not just growth hacking all the way through. So there are 3 core systems that you need to be aware of and grow intentionally and have a plan for growing. And that's kind of what we're going to go through here. But first, if you're going to grow and utilize those 3 systems, you need to know what stage of growth you're in. We have businesses of all sizes attending. We work with businesses of all sizes. The stage of growth that you're in depends on it influences how you implement tactics and strategies. A startup has a very different strategy than Apple. And that may seem obvious, but all too often we're taking somebody else's strategy because we see, oh, this Facebook tactic worked really well, or this ad spend really worked really well, or whatever. We cherry pick these things and we use someone else's strategy that's in a different stage than us, and we wonder why they don't work. And so we actually have 4 stages of e-commerce growth, and actually the most important ones are the 2 in the middle. So the first thing to note here is that revenue actually doesn't matter in these stages. It's listed as a baseline. We kind of utilize it to categorize, but it really is the other things that determine that, what stage you're in. And most people are actually in the first 3, and most are actually in the second stage, survival stage, and they don't even realize it. Knowing your stage is critical to being able to scale these core systems. And it's not a shame thing, it's just a reality thing. Like, what stage of business are you at? Because it changes what you actually do. In fact, we work with many Fortune 100, 500 corporations that are not typically in, like, let's say, survival stage, right? But their e-commerce channel may be. And so you have to grow it that way. And so take a second to decide what stage you're in. Are you starting out? Are you in survival? Survival is where you're dependent on 1 or 2 marketing channels for all your new customers. Things like that are survival. When you get to health, it's kind of where we're trying to get you with these core systems today. And some people think they're in health and they're actually in survival, and that's dangerous. All right. So here are the core systems. This is simple, right? Acquisition, conversion, maximization. You may be like, obviously, those are the 3. Well, we're going to get into them. These 3 core systems are part of every e-commerce channel. And in order to leverage and grow, you need to actually grow them in a certain way. It's get traffic, get someone to purchase, get them to purchase again and again. And hint, that last one is actually the secret to success. And I won't have time to go super, super deep on all these. We're going to try to in the time that we have. But we're going to go through practical steps that you can take. And again, you can go ahead and reach out to us if you'd like to spend some more time digging into these for you. So let's get into the first system, acquisition. The goal of the acquisition system is to consistently bring the right people to your store for the lowest cost possible. So consistency, right people, lowest cost. There's this quote from Mark Cuban that I use oftentimes, and it hits really hard. If you don't have a consistent way of bringing new people into your world, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. Like, ouch, what a jerk he is. That may sound really harsh, but if you let it sink in, you realize that it's actually true. And so, simply put, you need to be able to consistently acquire customers if you're going to have a business that has scale and consistency and stability into the future. And this is always changing, by the way. And this is where some pitfalls come in. And so here are 3 pitfalls to avoid in your acquisition system. You can ask yourself, you can use this a different way. You could say, is your system healthy? Is my system healthy? Am I getting 80% or more of my customers, my new customers, from the same marketing channel, like Facebook ads? Or are you constantly jumping around to different channels, and you're not hunting channels trying to find them and spread out that 80%? Are you consumed with ROAS and direct attribution? I'm going to talk about that a little bit. That may seem like a good thing. It's actually a bad thing if you let it get out of whack. Does your growth strategy consist mostly of platform tactics, hacks, targeting techniques, Facebook ad techniques, YouTube techniques, those kind of things? Those are pitfalls that will make this system seem healthy if they're working, but you may not actually be healthy. So when we look at the acquisition system, we want to measure it on its own merits, right? Okay, so oftentimes, and acquisition is not just paid ads, by the way. It's however you get customers in. But paid ads is a big part of e-commerce, right? And so we all know how we've all run our paid ad systems, right? And we manage our marketing teams and even maybe our agencies and things. And oftentimes it's ROAS, right? That is not necessarily the way to measure acquisition. Acquisition system has to be measured on its own merits, right? So you can't use compound metrics like ROAS and customer acquisition cost and conversion rate. That is not, the acquisition can't control all that. So the 5 metrics are CPM, which is cost per thousand. This is essentially how many impressions, what are you paying for impressions? Cost per click. So how are you getting people to click through, and how efficient is that? Cost per view, that could be for your YouTube strategy, even on Facebook and those kind of things. Click-through rate. And by the way, these are also the case in organic. This is not just paid traffic, organic traffic as well. Click-through rate. And then here is one that is really important, which is ad spend to revenue ratio. This is one that we use, and I haven't seen many people use it to manage a lot of our paid marketing. And this is essentially, what am I spending versus what am I making? All right. And it kind of cuts all the BS and gets right to the point. You can't use any compound metrics to figure out if your acquisition system is healthy, right? You can figure out if your business total is healthy that way, but not with acquisition. All right, so here are 3 ways to get healthy growth in your acquisition system, and I'm gonna run through these. Number 1 is to target the right people. Number 2 is to diversify your marketing channels and sales channels. And number 3 is to drive down the cost. You want to not waste your money by having an inefficient marketing system. All right, so let's get right into the first one. Target the right people. If you don't have a customer avatar, specifically an e-commerce customer avatar, then you don't know who you're targeting, and that's the first step. And I find that most people may have that, or most people don't. A lot of people have it, but they haven't gone deep enough. And so this needs to have things like psychological traits. What are people's goals and motivators and values and fears? How can you use those things to align your product with what they want? And if you need help here, we have some tools on how to do this. In fact, we even have a template that you can use. All right, number 2, diversify your marketing and sales channels. Now, there are 7 core marketing channels and 5 core sales channels that you can use and leverage in different ways. I'm not going to go into each one, but look at these, review and understand them and see what are you using, what are you not. Put a little checkbox, actually put a little percentage about which ones are driving the most traffic. If you find that 1 or 2 make up 80% of your traffic, then you have some work to do here. You want to diversify. And diversification takes investment, by the way. And investment takes profit margin. So this all kind of obviously connects, right? And so you've got paid, you've got email, which is owned, email and text. And I'm not going to get into owned versus unowned, but owned is where you don't have to pay someone to send it, like you own it. But most of the other ones are unowned, right? Almost or search engine traffic, paid traffic from Facebook, YouTube, those kind of things. Like those are their customers. That's their land. They own those people, or they don't own those people. They think they do. They own the customer records, and you can't talk to them without going through them. So, who has your customer list? Is it you or someone else? So that's, and we're going to dig into email a little bit more here in a few minutes. So look through these and figure out what you're not leveraging and what you need to invest into leveraging. On the sales side, there's direct to consumer, which is e-commerce. That's what we're talking about here, obviously, but there are other sales channels and they should be leveraged in your total product company business. There are marketplaces, affiliates, wholesale, retail, and offline, which are things like owned retail locations and pop-up shops. And so ask yourself the question, are you healthy here? And you can ask this, like, if X platform shut down tomorrow, not shut me down, but shut down tomorrow. Facebook went away. If Amazon went away, would my business be okay? Depending on the answer, then you know if you're healthy or if you have some work to do here. All right, number 3, drive down cost. Most businesses actually waste a lot of money in the acquisition area. And it's actually not a budgeting issue. Most actually plan to spend too little, and then yet have massive inefficiency on that spend. And it tends to be a management issue rather than a strategy issue. And so you have to create an intentional system that drives results. And that means you have to change how you think about measuring results, which we just talked about, on the acquisition system. And then also how you get them. You have to advertise. You can't just platform hack. And so real quick, there are 5 ways to not waste your marketing budget. All right, here they are. Number 1, don't chase attribution. This may sound counterintuitive, but attribution is a red herring. It's something that's elusive. You can actually never get to true attribution in marketing because we all know that customers use all sorts of platforms to make a purchase, and different platforms play different roles. So just because one platform got the credit for the sale doesn't mean that the other platforms are not relevant. And so if we just chase attribution alone, it'll have us running down the wrong path. We should look at it, but we shouldn't chase it. Use ad spend to revenue ratio. I talked about this a little bit earlier, and I hinted at it, talk about it now. This is where you take your total ad spend, and we actually track this per day, and we do it in spreadsheets. You take total ad spend, total marketing spend, and then total revenue, and then what is the percent of ad spend to revenue. In general, 20 to 30% is actually really good. And you may not get that until you're in the health stage. 30 to 50% is actually on the high side, and that's okay if it's okay, but don't just let it run away from you, right? Anything over above 50 is in my experience, very unhealthy. But if you're doing promotional periods, if you're investing in a new product launch, if you're launching your company, that ad spend is going to be higher. But be aware of it and track it daily. Learn the art of advertising versus platform hacking. You have to remember back to when we didn't have Facebook and YouTube and all these different platforms and Google search and Google shopping, all this kind of stuff. Like, how did people advertise, right? There's certain principles like emotions drive purchase, right? Not logic. Logic legitimizes purchase. So you can't just market features and benefits. There are 3 sells that you have to make, which we'll actually talk about in a second. So learn the art of advertising, or relearn it, or refresh yourself. Remember to maximize your traffic. Now, this means tracking and retargeting and email capture and nurture sequences and all these kind of things, so that when traffic comes in, the right people come in, hopefully you're targeting them, that you can make the most of it. And so, you can do things like keep the scent trail alive from your ads to your brand, use landing pages, create an intentional customer journey. We'll kind of talk about some of these things in the conversion system. But maximize that traffic. And lastly, create compelling ads and ad funnels. We have an ad formula that we use, which is IOTA, which is interrupt, offer, trust, build, and action. We can dig into all these kind of things, but essentially you need to make sure that you create ad funnels. Don't just try and get the sale on the first ad and the first click. Create logical ad funnels, nurture somebody in an intelligent and efficient way. And then leverage that effectively across your organization. And so in the acquisition system, strategy over tactics. That's something to remember. And I say that because it's so easy, so tempting to get caught in tactics. Okay, system number 2, conversion. All right, so the goal of conversion is to consistently get an increasing percent of visitors to purchase for the highest amount possible. And note I said visitors, not customers, because making customers purchase again and again is a big part of this, and it's actually the 3rd system. Okay, so real quick, let me talk to you about this company called Groove. We helped launch a few years ago. They actually sell products for active people. We actually launched a silicone ring a long time ago for $50+, and it's the best active ring out there. However, on the surface, you can see competitors selling what seems to be the same things for $5 on Amazon. And so how can we consistently do this and get so many good reviews and consistently grow? This business continues to grow when there's such a big price difference. Well, in essence, it's a lot of things, but one is having a very intentional customer flow that does things like build brand, create emotion, sells really well, follows up, removes barriers, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the value of an intentional conversion system. And so let's get into it. So here are 7 key metrics to watch when you're building your conversion system or measuring the value of it. Number 1, time on site. Number 2, bounce rate. Number 3, pages per visit. Number 4, new versus returning visitors, user journey, and looking at the highest converting paths. Number 6, conversion rate. That's a compound metric. And that means it is influenced by the other systems like acquisition and maximization, and revenue, which is also a compound metric. And so what are 4 ways that we can actually grow this conversion system? We're going to go through these real quick. The first one is creating an intentional customer experience, make 3 key sales, create irresistible offers, analyze, and optimize. Let's get into creating an intentional customer experience. How are you going to keep as many people around and capture the ones who didn't purchase so that you can keep in touch and convert as many as possible for as much as possible, as long into the future as possible? All right, so you have to realize that there are 5 buyer types and 10 key pages on your website that you need to be intentional about at minimum if you're going to create a great conversion experience. And by the way, one of the bonuses, the perfect e-commerce website that you're going to get is about 70 pages of teaching you how to do this with templates and all that kind of stuff as well. And that'll come up at the end. So here's the 5 buyer types. There's browser, laser, now, soon, later. I'll describe that. Browser versus laser is how someone shops, right? Someone either knows what they want or they don't know what they want, and they have to find it. And you have to make it easy for them to find it if they're going to browse around. You also have to make it easy for the person who knows what they want to find what they want. And that means, depending on the size of your product line, that may be easy or hard, but you have to make sure you accommodate both types. You also have 3 types of buyers as far as time frames. So some that are going to buy right now, some that are going to buy soon, which is like maybe in an hour, later today, tomorrow. And then there are some that are going to buy in the future, like they're preparing for a sale that they're those type of people, right? Like, that they prep and they are aware, or maybe this is like just kind of some research that they're doing and they may be ready for it in the future. And so you have to accommodate those people and actually maximize all 3. And so here are 10 pages as part of your website that you need to make sure you intentionally construct in order to do that. And there's obviously other things that you need to do, but experience is one big part of that. This is not just, by the way, like installing a Shopify theme. It's a thought out flow, and that's where things fall short. And so you need to do things like communicate why they're there and why they should stay in under 3 seconds. You need to create an emotion to purchase or learn more while also building your brand. So that person may want to learn more. You also want to kind of push them, like create the desire to actually make something happen. You have to do this efficiently and quickly, helping them find their product and then checking out while also presenting appropriate upsells, cross-sells without actually distracting them by those things. And you have to have appropriate tracking and incentives in place to be able to keep the conversion going if it falls off or after the sale, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of people just focus on the homepage and the product detail page, and that's it. And they install the Shopify theme, or they, Magento theme, or they ask a design company to just design something really pretty, which is great, but like it needs to be intentional for your brand. So there are 10 key pages, and these are the pages. And if you think something like blog listing page is not important, we found that it is, right? It may not be as important as the homepage, but in the customer journey, typically all these things have a place. And if they can be done with intention, your conversion experience is optimized for success. And so we're not going to get into all these, but that bonus actually does. And we can also dig in if you'd like to further. If you'd like us to design your conversion experience, feel free to reach out to us at that link, metakick.com/contact. All right, so there are also 3 cells. Number 2, 3 cells you have to make. Emotions drive actions, and logic actually backs up those actions. That's just part of human nature. And so people take action based on emotion, and they make decisions based on information. So in the e-commerce world, we make 3 cells every single time that we bring someone through a conversion experience. We make the emotional cell. We make someone want it. We all know that feeling of wanting to buy something that we shouldn't buy, or even if we should buy it, but that feeling of wanting to buy it needs to be there. And we're not going to get into how you do that, but that has to be there. Number 2, logical. And so then after that feeling's there, you want to be able to rationalize it with information. So that purchase has to be rationalized by the person. That's information that does that. That's features and benefits. Those are knocking down objections, all those kind of things that help them do that. And then there's time-based, right? Because there are some people that are just not going to move unless there is urgency attached to moving. This shouldn't really be manufactured, but this is why promotions and sales periods of time, this is why Black Friday works, right? It's important because if you don't do this, the customer's going to go and they're not going to come back just by themselves, because procrastination is a part of human nature. All right, number 3, create the perfect offer. All right, so we have this little very odd acronym for creating a perfect e-commerce offer. But the perfect e-commerce offer, an irresistible offer, has these 7 things. It's a super offer. All right, so it has to be simple to understand, simple to execute for your team, simple to fulfill on the logistics side, simple for customer service to deal with. So many times people create complex offers and they fail right there. It has to be unique. So create a unique message. And this is where your creative energy can be put in creating a unique offer that actually digs into your brand and makes it fun and all these kind of things, whatever is associated with your brand. It has to have urgency. So I mentioned it earlier, but every offer has to have some level of urgency. Humans procrastinate by nature. And if you believe that your product is important for the customer that you decided it's important for, then it's your duty to make them get over themselves or help them get over themselves and create that urgency. Product choice. You have to make sure that you choose the right products to create your irresistible offers. And so products have to be gateways into your brand ecosystem. And so sometimes you have a hero product that leads into other products. Make that hero product your best offer, and then create upsells and compliments, etc. It has to be economical. And so what I mean by that is unhealthy companies go out of business because they give great offers that actually hurt their business. That's Casper mattress, right? By the way, when you sell dollar bills for 50 cents, everyone's going to buy them, but you're going to go out of business. So you have to make sure your offers come from a business model that can support them, from margins that can support them. They have to be relevant. So great offers are the ones that only the target audience cares about. If you're bringing in people to your site, hopefully it's the right people, but if the wrong people see it, it's not for them, and they don't waste your time, they don't waste your money, and we don't waste their time. And that's why you need customer avatars. And lastly, it has to be irresistible. And to make an irresistible offer, it's this thing called the value gap. And so we need to spread apart what it costs someone to the value that it creates for them. And this is true with anything. You may think, my product's so simple, it doesn't have that much value. Well, a silicone ring on its surface doesn't have any value unless you create it. And we're able to create a lot of that. And it actually does when you dig into it. For the right customer, it has a ton of value. I mean, what's your finger valued at, right? And so dig into that for your product and make it irresistible. And this is where warranties and free exchanges and those kind of things come in as well. Lastly, number 4, analyze and optimize. Look, I was going to leave this one out. I was going to make it 3 things, but there is no conversion system that is complete without a feedback loop. You have to have a feedback loop. You have to know the metrics that matter to your business. right? And we have a guide on how to find those. If you want to know more information, we can kind of point you to that product that we have. These are not vanity metrics. These are not Google Analytics metrics necessarily. But you have to know what matters to your business. You have to measure them and watch them consistently. And then you have to optimize constantly, all the time, right? Always feeding back and getting better. So for the conversion system, create an intentional conversion experience. That's the goal here. It's not just slapping up a theme. It's being intentional about it to grow it. All right, let's jump on to the last system. I think I'm doing okay on time here, and then we'll finish up here. Maximization. Man, I was excited for this system. This is the system, no joke, that all of the wealth is made in. All of the highly profitable health stage and influence stage businesses, if you remember that 4 stages of business, they all have nailed their maximization system. And as marketers often get hyper-focused on the initial sale. Like, how can I get another person to purchase? How can I get another person to purchase? Again, right? The purchase is the starting line. It's not the finish line. And if you look at the initial purchase as the beginning of a long-term healthy relationship, then it'll actually change your perspective and it will change your business. And so any 9-figure plus profitable business has dialed this in like crazy. Any billion-dollar brand has this perfected, and they spend time on it and they engineer it. So you can't overlook it. And it has to be constructed with intention. And the bottom line is it's very hard or impossible to break certain figure ceilings, like let's say 9 figures, which is why I came in today, right? It's impossible to break that if you don't focus on the system. In my experience, this is certainly the biggest lever, the biggest opportunity for your business for so many reasons. And so the goal is to increase the value of each customer through delivering extreme value, driving additional purchases, and creating fans that market for you at scale, all of that at scale. Let's dig into how to do it. Well, real quick, actually, I want to show you, if you don't already know the value of it, let's think about Amazon, right? Amazon has about 200 million Prime members as of like a 2019 estimate. That's about 82% of US households. Some of those estimates calculate that Prime members average $1,300 a year in spending. And that's actually, the stat I found was from 2013. I couldn't even find a recent one. So it's probably doubled or tripled by now. I know in my house it has. Maybe I should cancel that. I'm just kidding. We all know what it's like to be an Amazon customer. We all know why, if we are a Prime customer, why we are, right? It's super convenient. Everything's there. Shipping's free and fast and easy and all that kind of stuff. And so what is the result of that for Amazon, right? Amazon's market cap is about 1.2 trillion right now. Their 2021 revenue was about 470 billion. And then they had 34 billion in profit. And they only spent 16 billion in ads. Only 16 billion in ads. As a percent, that's only 3.4% of their revenue, right? So their ad spend is 3.4%. And it's all based on maximization, all based on customer relationship and lifetime value, right? That is the power. They can spend 3.4% on ads at their scale, by the way, which is, I mean, obviously one of the largest companies in the US, maybe in the world. And they can spend 3.4% on ads. That is the value of customer maximization. And so you're not Amazon. You may not be Amazon. You may not be in a subscription model. You may not have one. That's not the point. You don't need a subscription model to do that. The point is you need to shift from focusing 80% of your effort on acquiring customers, brand new customers, to a significant portion of your effort maximizing your current customers. And this doesn't mean burning out your current customers and emailing them all the time, asking them to buy something. That's not the way you do this. We're going to go into some of the ways you can do this in a healthy way, and create great customer experiences and make them happy for a long time. Side note, if you want to reduce your ad spend that you have to spend, you focus here. All right. So 3 metrics to measure your maximization system. Number 1, repeat purchases. Number 2, new versus returning customers. And number 3, lifetime value measured at 30 days, 90 days, 1 year, 5 years. Those are somewhat standard metrics, but whatever it matters for you. What is lifetime value of a customer at 30 days or the day of purchase, 30 days, 90 days, etc. A lot of people get caught in lifetime value because they don't have those bounds, those time bounds. Those time bounds make it easier to do and also help your business model, help you create that business model. All right, so here are 3 ways that you can get healthy growth from your maximization system. Obviously, there's a ton of things that you can do here, but these are 3 key levers that we've seen work over and over again. And number 1 is product line. Number 2, it's creating fans. Number 3, it's building a profitable email system. So product line, number 1, you have to have an ecosystem of products. Even if you don't have an ecosystem of products now, plan to have an ecosystem of products. It's very hard to really leverage this system and really scale beyond a certain point in revenue or profit if you only have one product or a couple products. But as you scale those products, they have to be great products. They have to be in line with your brand mission. They can't just be add-ons and something to sell someone for no reason. We're not going to go into how to do this. But there are tips and tricks of how you leverage your current customers to help you do this. Products can also be information that goes along with your flagship product or software that goes along with your product. In order to invest, you'll have to have your margins and your profit dialed in to invest into product and research and development, which is why the first 2 systems are super important. All right. So second one is creating fans. We all know the value of fans. We don't have to go into this, right? I'm in Nashville. There's Alabama versus Auburn versus UT. Like, don't get in the mix of that, right? We all know the term Apple fanboy. I even saw someone with a Shopify license plate. Okay, that's a fan. We know the power of fans, but oftentimes as businesses and brands, we think of fans as fans for musicians and celebrities and athletes, and not really that they can be fans of our brand. And the truth is, you can create fans for your brand. If you do, it's really valuable and it's really powerful. So if you remember that like $50 silicone ring, a big part of that was we created fans. You can think of fan creation as actually starting with brand creation. So how do you create fans? Well, it starts by seeing the purchase as the starting line, not the finish line. And here are 6 steps to kind of get you through the bones of creating fans. Number 1, you want to create a logical connection. Great product, great story, great offer, deliver on your promise. The second is you want to create an emotional connection. Move them past the product and into your purpose as a business. And I'm not going to get into why you should do that, but purpose as a business is so powerful. It's not just like, necessarily planting trees and that kind of stuff. That's bad, but like purpose doesn't have to be that level. It's what matters to your business and why you created what you did, or why your product exists. That is valuable in fan creation. Then add extreme value to their life. This is not only with your product, but also with your company, with your brand, with your mission, with your content, with all the things and all the relationship that you have with them. It's add extreme value. If you do this right, they'll buy anything that you make now and into the future. Follow through in the little ways. So that's fulfillment, delivery, customer service, unboxing, support, content, education, all that stuff that sometimes gets pushed to the side. Like those are really important things in creating fans. Then you indoctrinate. Keep building the relationship together. Indoctrinate sounds weird and cultish or whatever. It is that, okay? You want to create a cult following for your brand. There's this t-shirt brand called Johnny Cupcakes in Boston. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It has a cult following, and it's a t-shirt brand. He did it through creating fans and creating a really great brand. It's not through his products even. And then give them room to rave and give them tools to rave with. This is when people are fans, they want to recruit others as fans. Give them the room to do that. Pour fuel on the fire when you see it. Bring them into your world. And there are various tools that you can do this. And also, I'll say pro tip: when there's a bad situation with a customer service is the front line of fan creation. You can actually turn that that frustration into gratitude if you plan for it. So creating fans. Number 3, build a profitable email system. This is a big one, and it's an easy one to start with and grow. Creating a profitable email program is probably the easiest thing you can do after today if you want to take movement on your maximization system. Maybe you have one, but maybe it's not producing the results you need. Email should be about 30% or more of your revenue. And it can, if it's not, it can add that. That's our experience. We've seen that many, many times. It's an owned channel. So we talked about to own versus unowned. It's your land, it's your asset. And because it's your asset, you should treat it as your asset, right? It's your customer list. It's the value. It's a big part of the value of your company. And it can be a primary driver for how you maximize your customers. So there are 3 pillars to building a profitable email system for e-commerce. And again, you'll get actually in one of the bonuses a deep dive into some of this. So number 1, one-off campaigns. These are things like individual sends and promotional emails, those kind of things. You want to send those 1 to 2 times per week, ideally, not sales 1 to 2 times per week, but just communication, right? And every single one needs to have value. If it doesn't have value, don't send it. It has to have value on its own. And we like to say 50-50, give to get. So, giving something, that could be content, that could be entertainment, that could be whatever, to getting something, which is asking for a sale. Don't always and only ask. And so, for example, like at Groove Life, which is the ring company, we did an adventure series where we filmed, literally, we dropped people out of planes and swam with sharks and all this kind of stuff because our audience loves adventure. And that was part of our email program and even our content program. You don't have to do that, but whatever it means for your brand, make that come through. All right, number 2, automated sequences. This is essentially mailbox money. It's passive leverage for your business. And a lot of people have these, but they just haven't optimized them and they haven't done them well. They've just sort of maybe installed the standard ones or whatever that is. So there are 3 types. There's pre-purchase, mid-purchase, post-purchase. Well, not 3 types. Those are 3 standards that we like to see. Before the purchase, make sure you're getting an email and talking with them. Mid-purchase is anything from add to cart to when they receive their product. Make sure we're talking with them and making, we have opportunities to sell and abandoned carts in that area. We also have opportunities to get their excitement up before they get their product. And then post-purchase is where we can start delivering on our brand promise. We can educate them, we can support them, we can help them use our product, and then we can obviously sell them more things as that makes sense. And there are other flows as well, but these are 3 core flows that are really important. The last one is segmentation. And so we talked about knowing your customers. This is leveraging that knowledge in email and then personalizing your email at scale, right? It's personalization at scale. It can be really powerful when you start to talk to people based on who they are and what you know about them. We know who they are based on what they purchased. We might know what drives them based on what they purchased and what pain they're trying to solve based on what they purchased. And so, you can create all sorts of segments, but it's essentially personalization at scale. And we have a list of segments. I'm probably not going to go through it right now, but it's actually in your bonus. And you can reach out to me and we can talk more about it another time. So how do you actually coordinate all of this in email? It's through your EMP. This is your e-commerce marketing planner. It drives everything. And if you don't know what that is, it's a marketing calendar on steroids. And then we actually have a template, and this is actually how we run all of our brand's marketing and all the content and all the things that kind of go out. You need that. You need to coordinate your entire team around that. And there's also a cadence. You can plan in advance to get the result that you want in revenue and business scale and all that kind of stuff through an EMP that you actually project either yearly or quarterly. Okay, so in the maximization system, it's about delivering value to current customers. It's not being, don't get overwhelmed by this. Start small, start with email, but deliver massive value to current customers and get massive value back out of them. If you'd like to dig into any of these more, you're welcome to book a call with us, and we can actually help you do this if you're a business in the 6, 7, 8 figure mark. So those are the 3 systems: acquisition, conversion, maximization. And I'll just leave you with this. As we look at this and these brands, and then we're coming up on time, the greatest brands in the world have these systems, but there are also brands that are not great that have these systems nailed down. So we realize that there are actually 4 X factors to the best brands in the world. And we can spend a lot of time here, but we're not going to. These are the 4 X factors that we found that the best brands in the world actually have in common. They do the boring stuff. This is the stuff that's not glamorous. This is the stuff that is planning and, making sure that things get done right, and organizational, this kind of stuff. They build their brand. We're not talking about your logo or your messaging. We're talking about your brand, which is actually your biggest moat, your biggest competitive advantage, your best asset going into the future. They create fans, which we talked a little bit about that. But fan creation is core to what they do, and they have great leadership. And none of this really works long-term without a great leader who has vision, who can manage people and teams and external teams and all these kind of things too, and also hear the customer and do what they need. And so I'll leave you with that as we kind of end here. I'll take some questions. I'll give you your bonuses here in a second. But real quick, I'll say, if you're interested in working with Meticake, if you like what you heard, if you're a 6 to 9 figure e-commerce channel or e-commerce brand, and you're looking to create healthy growth, maybe you need to improve your acquisition, maybe you need to optimize your store to convert more, maybe you aren't growing your customer value using email, maybe you need to employ a revenue producing e-commerce email system. Any of those things, if that sounds right for you, this is not for everyone, by the way. We aren't able to work with everyone. We don't work with everyone. We work with certain types of brands that are at certain stages and want to get to certain other stages. But if you fit that mold and you're willing to invest and you want to invest in your future, you think there's something to get, and you're at one stage, you want to get to the next stage, feel free to book a call, and we'd love to talk with you and see if we can add value to you. And if we can, awesome. So that's the URL right there, meticake.com/contact. Okay, so you just watched the workshop on how to scale to 9 figures, the 3 core systems that are part of any business to scale to 9 figures, or really any number that you're trying to scale to. But as I mentioned at the top, the important thing in any business is that it makes a very healthy profit, right? And really, you want your profit number to be 30% or more. Many businesses are so much lower than that, but you really want 30% or more. The next session that you're going to watch is a session that I recorded for our small group of owners of e-commerce businesses that are part of our mentorship program. This session is about profitability, the levers that you can pull to increase the profitability of an e-commerce business without doing it all yourself as the owner. But here's the deal. Even though I recorded it for a bunch of e-commerce businesses, I wanted to share it with you because I think it can apply to any business that you run. Any business has the same type of levers to increase the profitability of that business. And it's important to increase the profitability of that business because that's how you create a healthy business. That's how you create wealth. And that's how you create a valuable business that if someday you want to sell, you can sell for a nice multiple. So enjoy this session. And then at the end, drop me a line. Tell me what you thought about it. Thanks, and never stop growing. Reducing the costs to run your e-commerce business is one of the 3 parts to creating profit and increasing the value of your business, which is a big part of what we care about. It's not a subject that's often discussed since the headlines like to show revenue growth, not cost reduction, right? And by the way, we do go into revenue growth in many other guides, which we'll link to below. But the truth is that cost cutting is not really the mentality of growth. It's not super sexy. And if you look at it the wrong way, it's a bad thing. You have to look at how to create massive efficiencies rather than cutting costs. Think about how you create massive efficiencies that reduce the cost to run your business over time while increasing your revenue over time. And so today, we're going to show you the top 3 ways to lean out the 3 biggest areas of expense in your e-commerce business. Let's go. Okay, before we get into cost, let's talk about the reverse way that you need to look at your e-commerce business, and that is profit first. Most people put profit last, right? It's the bottom line, not the top line. And we flip that. Looking at profit first is how you create a successful and valuable business. An e-commerce business should be at least 23% net profit and growing from there. If you want to have enough to invest into the future and increase those profits, this is required. We like to actually see 30% or closer to 30%. Anything below 15% is what I would consider unhealthy and unstable. So where do you sit? Do you even know where you sit? And are you tracking net profit? And by the way, this is net profit. That means after everything. So it's also known as SDE, seller discretionary earnings. It's also known as EBITDA. But it's essentially the bottom line. And if you want to increase your business value, then this is the main thing to look at. And so what is profit first? It's this idea that we take the profit out first, revolutionary, as if it were a tax, right? As if it were not even available to your business. And then we work with the rest rather than profit just ending up where it ends up. And it's based on this idea that a business will consume however much you give it, as small or as little as or as large as you give it. We get deep into this concept of profit first in other guides, but the basic idea or the basic equation that you can use is 30-20-50. And that being 30% profit, 20% operating expenses, marketing and human resources, etc. And then 50% cost of goods. So that's your product, that's your inventory, that's what it costs to make it. Every business is different, but you should know what the makeup is for you. And maybe that 3 area split is helpful for you. Now that we understand that concept, let's go ahead and jump into the 3 top areas of expense and how to reduce those in an e-commerce business. Okay, so number 1, how to reduce your marketing spend. So marketing is typically the highest expense for an e-commerce business. And while you don't want to cut marketing because it's the lifeblood of your sales, you never want to just cut marketing. You do need it to be very efficient and you want it to become more efficient over time. And so here are 3 ways to create more efficiency in your marketing spend. Number 1, focus on owned channels, AKA email and SMS. Owned channels are channels where you own the land. Someone can't shut you down. You don't have to pay every time you send something. That's an owned channel. It's a list. And essentially email, direct mail, and phone are really the only 3 owned channels. And email is one of the most fruitful. It's the best one. According to HubSpot, email has a 36x ROI. And so that's $36 for every $1 you spend, versus if you take pay-per-click, right? You're talking about most good ROAS is 2 to 4x, right? And sometimes you can get higher, but it's a very different return. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do pay-per-click, but 30% or more of your sales should be coming from email. And if they're not, and that's the opportunity, you really need to get more sales through email. And so we actually have a guide on how to install a revenue generating email system into your business, into your e-commerce business that you can grab, and we'll link to below. It's at a ridiculous price right now for limited time. But essentially, number 1 is focusing on owned channels, and that's specifically email. That's the biggest lever that you have. The second one is maximize unpaid and paid traffic. You need to have this full funnel approach where you're bringing in traffic, and sometimes you're paying for it. You're actually paying for it everywhere. It just depends on if it's direct cost or an indirect cost. So you're paying to bring in these people, and we want to make the most out of them. And so we want to make sure that we're following up with all the other technologies that we have. So that means you need to be retargeting. You need to be transitioning people as quickly as possible to email even before the sale, especially before the sale, to maximize your follow-up. Since we know most people will not buy your product the first time. Most people won't buy your product even the second time. So you have to follow up over and over again. And so number 2 is maximizing traffic. Number 3 is bring in an expert. Oftentimes, to maximize your marketing spend, it takes deep knowledge and experience in various areas and various industries and different brands, and to leverage that and to create efficiencies in your business. And so it's very hard to do that when you're doing everything else and your business may not be a marketing business, it's a product business. And so one idea is to bring in an expert, something like we do that, Medicake does that. There are other experts out there that really know e-commerce, that look at lots of different brands, that spend lots of money across a lot of different brands and different ad platforms and all the different channels. Bring them in and help them guide you in creating efficiencies and sophistication in all these places. So number 1, how to reduce your marketing spend. That's the number 1 cost center. Number 2, the second cost center is inventory. And so let's talk about how to reduce inventory cost. This is cost of goods. And so inventory is a massive expense and one that will not go away unless you're a digital product. And even then, there's still costs of creating that. And so we go into supply chain and forecasting pretty deep in other places that we're not going to get into here. But let's really quickly get into the top 2 ways to reduce inventory costs. Number 1 is forecasting. And this includes primarily not overpaying for freight, charges, understanding how much demand there is for your product, how much people will consume, how much you're going to sell, and then planning ahead enough so that you can get it to you efficiently. So assuming that you make your product, that means talking to the manufacturer, that means giving them enough lead time, that means all the things so that you're not overpaying for speed. All right, that is what forecasting is about. And that's true even if you don't manufacture, whether or not you buy from suppliers or not. Forecasting is a huge lever because the faster you need it and the more that you hold in your inventory that's not sold, the poorer your cash flow, the more expensive your inventory becomes. And so forecasting is number 1. Number 2, margins. And so we talk about margins being one of those gold multipliers, right? One of those key levers in e-commerce, like your gross margin, everything flows from that. And so we like to see a 5x minimum gross margin in a product. And we actually like to really see something like 30x or more in your product. That's where you can really be successful. And that may sound like a lot, but it's really not, because that is how you pay for the rising cost of acquisition of a new customer. And so you invest in R&D and some of these critical ways to actually grow your business in healthy ways. And so margin is critical. If you don't have this, it's really hard to build a successful business. And so if your current products are low margin, look at increasing that through increasing your prices or through bringing in higher margin products over time. So that's the second cost center, is inventory. The third cost center is shipping. And so let's talk about how we reduce our shipping costs. And so shipping is obviously a massive part of e-commerce, right? It's essential in almost every e-commerce business unless you're a digital product. And so thus the costs associated with shipping can get quickly out of hand. We like to have a few rules for reducing shipping costs. Number 1, deal in lightweight and easy to ship and low breakage products wherever you can. If you're looking at expanding your product line, if you're looking at how to improve your products, when we look at businesses that we're potentially acquiring or consulting with, ideally it's lightweight, easy to ship, low breakage. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be in heavier, more complex shipping products. It's just you have to think more about the model. You have to make sure that your costs are not getting out of hand in the shipping area specifically, and that you can actually really serve customers well, doing warranties and support and all that kind of stuff without going out of business. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the unboxing experience. And so we talk a lot about how important unboxing is. And I'll link to all those guides. But the key here is that you don't overspend on the supplies and the packaging related to your products. If you do, then you're just wasting money, right? And so have a great unboxing experience, but be efficient and reduce unnecessary waste wherever possible. The packaging material is actually like your product. It requires lead times. It requires design. It requires manufacturing, all these different things. And so the forecasting and some of the other things we've talked about actually go into your packaging as well. So make sure that your packaging is not more than the price of your product. I've seen businesses where the packaging sometimes is more than the cost actually to create, or equal to the cost to actually create the product. And that may not be a smart thing for your business if that's the case. Number 3, build the cost of shipping into your pricing. We talk a lot about the psychology of shipping and how to price shipping appropriately. Customers really hate, or generally don't like, paying for shipping. Amazon, a few other brands have just kind of made it so that people assume that shipping is free, and fast shipping is important as well. Building the cost of shipping into your pricing is great. Charging for shipping wherever you can is actually really good as well, because it can be actually a revenue generator. But you might want to consider subsidizing some of your shipping in your product pricing. I think the point here is don't lose money on shipping. Okay, make sure that you're either covering it in your product, or you're charging enough for it in a way that's not reducing your conversion rate. Don't lose money on shipping costs. All right, I've got a bonus. Number 4, how to reduce your HR expenses. This is another big cost center for e-commerce businesses. The only other one is human resources. The number 1 way is outsourcing anything that isn't your core business expertise, right? So you're in the business of creating expertise in a specific product or a specific problem of which that product is a solution to, right? You may not be in the business of marketing or technology or accounting and forecasting and some of these other things. And so bringing in outside experts, we talk about how to blend outside experts like agencies, full outsourced versus hybrid versus all internal teams, how to blend that in the appropriate way. That's a critical part. And that's why a growth team like us exists, is to give advice and leadership and outside expertise to companies in our area that may not be your area. So that's number 1, how to reduce your HR expenses rather than spending a ton on really high experienced people that aren't core to your business. Potentially outsource some of those. Number 2, leverage technology in places so that humans can be efficient in doing the work that only humans should do and can do. So you want humans doing your highest value things, customer service touch points where you're talking to customers and emailing, that's humans. But what leads someone up to that place, leverage technology. And there are a whole bunch of other areas in your business that you can do that as well, through email and automation and things like that. So you're not wasting resources, human resources, on things that technology can do, and you're using them to create a lot of value for your company. And then lastly, having dialed in SOPs, standard operating procedures. These are the things that run your business. Your business runs on systems and processes, and the humans are only there to manage the systems and processes. That is another way to reduce HR expenses, because it reduces inefficiency in your teams. All right, so cost reduction is not really a fun topic unless you're kind of an accountant or a CFO, no offense. But the key is not cutting costs and slowing momentum, right? It's not being in a mindset of scarcity, but it's being in a mindset of efficiency and growth oriented, so that you can create maximum fuel for your business through the expenses that you actually have. If you're a 6 to 9 figure business and you're looking to implement these types of strategies to grow your revenue in healthy and profitable ways, go to metacake.com and we'd love to help. Thanks, and never stop growing.